He's convinced that his own weakness will be too great for God to use him for this task. Look at what he says to God. He says, "O Lord, I'm not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue." So Moses is basically saying this. He's saying, God, I can't do what you're asking. I can't do it. I can't speak well. I'm not a good speaker. I think this plagues the church. You tell people, let's fulfill the Great Commission. God commands us to go out and preach the gospel. Well, I can't speak well. Sorry to be convicting this morning. I can't speak well. I can't talk to people. I'm not a good speaker. How can someone like me, think about Moses. How can someone like me stand before Pharaoh and lead your people out of Egypt? What is Moses looking at in this verse? He's looking at his weakness. He's looking at the very thing that made him feel inadequate. He's asking, how can God possibly use me with this weakness? Moses is looking at himself and his own weak abilities, and not God and his limitless abilities. By saying this to God, you know what he's effectively telling God? This is going to sting. He's basically telling God, you got it wrong, God. You're wrong. You don't know what you're doing, Rod. I'm the wrong guy. You can't use me. Look at God's response. Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, the blind? Have not I, the Lord? Let's pause and let that sink in. Because God is saying to Moses, he's saying to each one of us, I made you. I made your mouth. I know your weaknesses. I'm still calling you. You don't need to rely on your own abilities. You need to rely on me. I will be with you. I will equip you for what I have called you to do. You're going to look at me and you're going to say, I can't speak, Lord. You're calling me to do this. You got it wrong. I can't speak. I made your mouth. I made you. I can do with you whatever I want to do. Moses had the same problem that many of us have. He was looking at his weakness. And he was thinking that it disqualified him from being used by God. This is essentially what we see here. Moses, I can't speak. God, who made man's mouth? God is showing us a profound truth here. Our weakness is never a barrier to God's strength and calling. It's the very avenue with which his power can flow. Moses' weakness was the key to unlocking the power of God in his life. Moses had to let go of his self-sufficiency. He had to stop trusting in his own abilities. God didn't need Moses to be a great speaker. He needed Moses to be obedient and to trust in God's power. Just like Moses, God doesn't need us to be strong. He needs us to be willing to step out in our weakness and surrender our own limitations and allow his power to work through us.